My name is Peter Salovey. I've been at Yale University for 44 years. I was involved in doing research on emotion. And one of our early projects involved working with Jack Mayer, my friend and colleague, on a theory of emotional intelligence. If people were smart about their emotions, what would that mean? If people paid attention to their emotions and used them as a source of information, how would they do that? And ultimately, how could we measure it?
I'm John D. Mayer, and I often go by Jack Mayer. Peter and I came up with the idea of emotional intelligence and published an article on it in about 1990. It kind of hung in the air as a possibility that there might exist this thing called emotional intelligence. We didn't just want to be theorists. We wanted to bring this thing from an idea and find out whether people really had an ability called emotional intelligence. So to do that, we started to construct tests that might be capable of measuring this new kind of intelligence. The MSCEIT 2 is a 87 or so item test, and what's key about it is it's an ability-based test. So rather than measuring people's opinions as to how emotionally intelligent they are, it measures the actual capacity of the people who take the test to solve problems related to emotions. The responses that participants engage in have to do with thinking about real-world problems rather than their own self-concept and how good or bad they might be at it. And that separates out their actual ability from their self-concept. The revised MSCEIT 2 has 4 areas or domains that it measures: perceiving emotions, connecting emotions, understanding emotions, and managing emotions. And then there's a global score.
So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence starts with a very important assumption. And that assumption is that we have evolved an emotion system that helps us navigate the world. And it does that by providing a certain kind of information to us. But people are very different in their ability to pay attention to that kind of information, understand it, manage it, use it. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. How do you take the information contained in the emotions of other people and the emotions that you experience yourself and make decisions on the basis of it, problem solve using that input, modify your behavior based on it?
By attending to those signals, one can begin to anticipate both what's going on inside the person's mental experience and also how they may behave in the near future.
So why would someone want to take the MSCEIT? I can answer that in a couple of different ways. How are you going to succeed in work if you aren't in touch with the emotions of members of your team and your colleagues and coworkers, let alone your own? So the MSCEIT 2 can provide you with a profile of your strengths and your areas for development. And once you know your areas in need of development, you can work on them. And the report that you'll receive provides suggestions for how to develop your emotional intelligence. Over the last several decades, people have had the misconception that emotional intelligence can't be changed, that you're born with what you have. And that's just not true. There's studies now in the scientific literature and many reports from user experience. These are skills and abilities that are changeable. So I think it's important to think about the return on investment in giving an emotional intelligence test. In an organizational context, it can help you with placement, it can help you with succession planning, it can help you figure out who should lead teams, who's better to put on the team but not as the leader. And you could administer it at the individual level or at the team level as a development activity, really. Let's imagine that you work in HR for an organization. How can you use the MSCEIT 2 to measure emotional intelligence in ways that are going to help your company? Probably the most common one that we see is in leadership development and leadership selection. Who in this group can read a room? Who in this group can manage a team? Who in this group can help develop the strategies when working with others that recognize other people's strengths and weaknesses? That tends to be the person you want as your leader, and the MSCEIT 2 can help to identify such an individual.
We decided it was time to revise the test so as to take into account some of the criticisms that people raised and to improve the overall quality of the test. And that's what led us to start work on the MSCEIT 2.
And of course, we listened to users. They wanted something that was particularly interactive.
We wanted to create a shorter test, and we now could create a shorter test because thanks to the researchers, there were new ways to shorten the test but maintain its validity and its reliability.
The scoring materials and interpretive materials for coaches, for users, all have been improved.
They're both clearer, easier to understand, more informative, and they come with actionable items that you can use to improve your emotional reasoning. And there are several training programs for certification and a variety of handouts and so forth that people can use to better understand the test.
The test is modular. Original MSCEIT was not. You don't have to administer or take the entire test. You can take just one of the domains or two. So if you have only a brief period of interaction with the client or are only interested in, let's say, managing emotions, you can give that part of the test. There aren't many ability-based tools that measure emotional intelligence, and none of them as comprehensively as the MSCEIT 2. It has a scientific basis that is just unmatched. It's the gold standard test. More than 1,000 studies and experiments have been published in the scientific literature using the MSCEIT. This isn't a test that you would find in a newspaper or in a magazine column. What's important to recognize is that while general intelligence matters, while personality matters, emotional intelligence may be the missing link, may be the part of your assessment approach that is not being systematically measured and that really will account for important outcomes in the work setting, whether it's succession planning, whether it's placement, whether it's team leadership. All of that can then lead to development activities that improve skills in individuals, but also improve the level of operation of teams. And all of that's going to have a positive return on your investment. The MSCEIT 2 can help you get there.